Year?
Let's fucking go. We about to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. Let's fucking go. You watching Contact.
Year?
You can thank the master. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. 24/7 researching, it's all a fantasy. But if I make the right plays, it pays automatically. Bankroll showing that I know it goes strategy. On a winning streak, I'm stacking a dose of the bookies, all get mad at me. Confident with how it plays, not clicking on a flex today. 10 times the money, and we all about to get paid. Eric and Josh on the stream, they be killing it. Never gonna stop it, I like if you feeling it. Digging the players, they all know what time you can't make up your mind and just go with your gut. Fantasize and Sasha Clown. Gabby Williams said, watch your mouth. They won and they two, I played the over, they come through. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, pick them both, we stacking them. Going big to the maximum, just push them in, we cashing them. Let's fucking go. We about to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. Let's fucking go. You watching Contact.
Year?
You can thank the master. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. We about to go big.
This is the game.
You watching Contact.
Let's get hunting.
You can thank the master. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks. About to go big. Kill him with the PrizePicks.
All right, what is up, crew? We are back and better than ever. Coming off a little break there from the WNBA All-Star weekend. And yeah, and we have to dive right into a huge slate. A lot of props to go through. So yeah, we're going to have our hands full right from the get-go. But recharged, ready to go. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty well. Took some time off and getting ready for this busy week we got ahead of us, and ready to hop into it whenever you guys are.
Yeah, we should get right into it because we have 4 games and like to get done within an hour to give enough time for us to build a rank list and people to get cards out because lock is in 2 hours. And we have NBA Summer League games locking around that same time too. So try to cover that at the end, some of our key targets. Yeah, but let's just get into it and then we'll catch up with chat as people are coming in. First game is an island game by itself, and it's starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Las Vegas at New York. We just saw this matchup before All-Star break, although it was in Las Vegas, and this is going to be the second time these two are playing against each other. Las Vegas are 6.5-point favorites on the road. They're still favorites to win it all, and A'ja Wilson is still barely hanging on as MVP odds favorite. So a lot of things going their way in this season so far, and they're a stacked team, as we always say. A lot of mouths to feed, a lot of productivity that can get distributed among the team. And then New York's coming off a really solid into the first half of the season to close it out before All-Star break. They've been playing much better as of late and kind of been on a heater. Sabrina, especially with her scoring, and then Marine with her 3-point shooting. And yeah, Natasha's playing better, more aggressive, attacking the basket, drawing fouls. So the question is, how do these teams look after All-Star break? They could come out flat. They could continue the heater. I don't know how New York is going to go. They're real desperate to finish out with 18 wins and try to make a push for the playoffs. Because, yeah, last year definitely did not do as well with record-wise. So they have a lot to play for. And, yeah, it's just a matter of can they keep this heater going. So with that said, let's start with the visiting team, Las Vegas. We know that they run the fastest pace. They're first in pace. And they allow the most three-pointers. Those are key 2 stats because New York, on the other side, they take the most three-pointers in the league. So definitely some opportunity for New York to score from the perimeter here. And, yeah, I think Vegas, they're going to continue to push the pace. And I think, A'ja Wilson's probably going to be a key talking point for us. She dominated that last matchup. What did she have? Like 10 plus free throw attempts?
Yeah, yeah, and that was one of our favorite props too.
Uh,
Didn't give us any free throw props, unfortunately.
yeah. So let's look. I forgot to mention that. So new thing today with WNBA back from the break, they took a lot of free throw props away, which we've loved to target because we could find some edge there. I mean, we're real limited. Some teams don't even have any free throw props, and then others just have one player from their team. And conjunctively, what they did is they added new props. They've added a points plus rebound, and they added a points plus assist props. So, some pros and cons there. I mean, we would have liked to keep having those free throw props, but maybe we can find some edge with these point rebound and point assist. I know Brianna Stewart just barely cleared her point rebound in that early game today. It was at 25 and a half, and I think she finished with 26 at the last second. Yeah, so there's definitely players that we can take advantage of this because we know they're going to dominate glass and points. And right off the bat, that's going to be Asia Wilson. She's a beast on the glass, averaging 10 rebounds per game. And she's averaging around 18 and a half points. So they have her they have her PR points plus rebound prop at 27. She's averaging 28.6 PR on the season. So I marked this. I know the crew really liked it. This is probably a core play from Vegas for us. Like to hear if you have any more news and notes on that. And then another thing would be back to going to Jackie Young's rebounds, because we know New York's going to take a lot of threes. In that last game, she barely cleared it, but she cleared it with 4 rebounds, and it's back to 3.5 rebounds. And then last thing before handing off to you, I noticed they really tempting us with Plum. I know her scoring hasn't been there, but it's at 18. It's like right at that mark because she's been living around that point total. And I feel like on the road, maybe she could pick it up more because we know Jackie plays much better at home scoring wise. So maybe if you don't want to go the Asia Wilson route, I could see you going with Plum's 18 points. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Las Vegas?
Yeah, I love Asia Wilson here today. They're one of the things for Vegas, I'm still kind of in question is some of their home road splits. We've seen in particular Hamby, she's just been kind of non-existent for some of these home road games, and Asia's really stepped into this leader, I wouldn't even say stepped into, but she's really taken the reins on the offense here in particular. Her first quarter run, her usage percentage is like almost 35% for some of these games. I mean, it's just outrageous. And that's not even counting or factoring in the trips to the free throw line, like you mentioned earlier. We know that New York is bottom in the league, worst of some of these teams in, as far as personal fouls. And she's really good at drawing these fouls and being able to get a couple trips to the free throw line here. So I think for her points and rebound definitely has to be the number one play. They didn't give us, I don't think they gave us any stocks for her either.
No.
Yeah, so they really limited what we can have on her. She's got some pretty good ball discipline, so 1.5 turnovers is kind of fringy, at best. But I think for us today, the either real points at 17, that's actually a really low prop compared to what it's been in the last couple of weeks. And her points and rebound, though, it's got to be our bread and butter for today. Just doesn't match up with our metrics, and it's for her home road splits, I think a great spot for us today.
I agree. And then I guess back to Plum real quick and want your thoughts on this. Do you like her points and assist or her just flat out raw 18 points? Because they have it at 23. She's averaging 25.6. We've seen her have spike assist games and still, pick up 15 to 18 points. Yeah. What do you think? Would you feel more comfortable with?
I think for the pretty even money line we're getting here, I think for this day one of props coming out, we should probably go with the points and assists, just because, as you mentioned, she does have these spike assist game. I think the scoring is pretty consistent, for her Real points under 20. That's been a good spot for us to attack. So for her, I think points and assists, number one prop, and then real points would be second go to for her.
Okay.
I love the Jackie Young 3.5 rebounds. We know both sides of the ball, or both teams here are going to be chucking it from three, so you could just fall into a couple of extra early rebounds. And for her, that's been one beneficial thing is for the most part in the first quarter recently, she's picking up 2 rebounds. So we got a lot of leeway there to work with. And with him being on the road here, as I mentioned, some of these players kind of ghosting us here. She's been a steady go-to as well. I don't think I feel comfortable with taking either narrow route on her points and assists or points and rebound because she could, push a triple double or she should not have a single assist. We've seen that happen a couple of
Yeah.
nights. So not too comfortable there on some of these secondary pieces, but I think for Vegas, it's got to be Wilson and Plum for 1A, 1B.
I agree. And then me and you talked about before the stream, one mid-tier that would be a sweat but makes sense would be Chelsea Gray's under 2.5 turnovers. She's averaging about 2.4. We know New York is pretty much dead last in causing turnovers. Yeah, they're 12th in opponent turnover percentage, so they're not forcing turnovers. Do you think that's too much on the risking the line? I guess we would like it better if it was 3 because it'd have a higher chance of pushing.
Sorry, what was that?
I said her 2.5 turnovers for Chelsea Gray.
Yeah,
Go under
I
on
actually,
that.
yeah, I agree with that. She's had some really good ball discipline, and even though she is still one of the team's kind of neck and neck leader for the assist category, you do fall into that as kind of a casualty of being in that position for a player. But for this team, and as you mentioned, some of the created turnovers with New York, they're in the bottom of the league. She'll have, for the most part, seeing bits of Dangerfield and some of these secondary pieces from New York who really don't play heavy on defensive side as far as turnovers, but they are a decent on-ball defender. And the thing I love about this game, though, is just going to be the pace for us is just so outrageous for basically opposite end of the spectrum here on both teams being number one, and I think New York's like 11th in pace now, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, second to
Yeah.
last.
Yeah, so for Vegas side of things, they're getting a pace down spot here, and that's always a nice spot to kind of pair some of these unders with here, I think. And something that we've I think really been onto is taking some of these turnover unders, especially some of the ones that are pushing 2.5 or 3 are really in play for us.
Yeah, especially against when they're going against teams like New York and Minnesota who don't cause many turnovers. If you want recent history, when these teams play each other before All-Star break, no one exceeded 2 turnovers. None of the starters exceeded 2, and Chelsea Gray had 0. But this was at home, so yeah, gotta take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, they only 7 total turnovers on Las Vegas side. Yeah, I think you could consider that as a low line if you need a filler. And her 1.5 block steal because she's a solid defender too. But I would feel more comfortable with the under on the turnovers. Okay, I'll mark that down. And then any others from Vegas before we move on to New York?
No, I don't think so, honestly.
Okay. All right, New York. I think Sabrina is probably going to be the primary talking point here. A lot of her props are live, her rebounding, her points, just because of, like you mentioned, the pace and how well she's playing. I mean, she's like setting the record for fantasy points in a season. Yeah, and just, getting triple doubles. I mean, she had a career game against Vegas just recently in that matchup. So I think rebounds would make the most sense with the pace and how she's just been destroying the glass as of late. That's one I think we like the most. And then I think her points can still be in consideration with Vegas giving up the most threes and New York taking the most threes. She had 31 real points against them. Um, yeah, and I think I'm curious to see, and what I guess we should game script in Rebecca Allen returning. I assume since she's missed quite a bit of time, they're probably going to have her come off the bench and probably play limited minutes, probably what 18 to 20 minutes. So that might affect some things, and I guess we need to figure that out. Who it probably affects the most, but yeah, what are your thoughts on Sabrina's props and any others that you liked?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with Rebecca today. Personally, I would love to see them slide Dangerfield back out into the second unit and slot her back in over there. I'm really hoping that Johannes has played herself a spot into the starting unit to stay. She's
Yeah,
just, doing a lot for this team in between taking a lot of 3-point attempts, clean 3-point attempts at that, and being able to create a shot for herself and then being able to space the floor out for her teammates to actually take a shot, because Dangerfield will not take a shot. And that's really been one of the things that's hurting the offense here. So we could see that happen in the future. I definitely agree with you for this game back. She's going to come off the bench and they'll probably, if it was a really serious injury and she has been out for such a long time, we could see maybe 2 to 3 games of her coming off the bench. But for this game, almost 100% sure she will be.
yeah, she probably absorbs most of Michaela's. Is that her name? Is that how you say Michela or Kella's Onure? Her bench minutes, because she's been playing 20 minutes off the bench, and I assume that a lot of that was Rebecca's minutes.
Yeah, Onuere, she's been playing really well
Onure,
off
yeah.
the bench too. That's kind of a tricky spot with some of these not only underlying injuries like Sammy, for example. A lot of folks were not high, really not even on the spectrum of her last game, and she just destroyed her props in the first quarter. So we could see some of this back and forth for the team. Is this something that's a coaching decision? They're easing some of these players from bench to starting role depending on their injuries, or is this team still trying to long term figure itself out here? What do their starting five look like, and then who's going to be their rotational pieces? So we've already seen New York let go of a handful of people this year, and even though they did sign or re-sign Dangerfield for the rest of the year, that doesn't guarantee that these players are going to actually step on the floor or play any kind of reasonable minutes here. So for this team, I think you got to be really questionable about a lot of the secondary pieces. But I love Sabrina today. I think that for her rebound prop, especially, we saw that she snagged 13 against them, and that was a triple double game, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So doing it all, had a pretty good All Star weekend, I think, all things considered. And with this massive pace up total for us, we got to go right back to some of her props today.
Yeah, I guess if you don't want to rebound, what would be the second most ideal? Would it be her points, or since they don't have any other secondary props for her, like her block, steal, or her free throw, I guess it would be her fantasy if you didn't want to go with her raw points, so you can get everything. I mean, they basically just said we're going to open it right at her season average right now, which is 37.5.
Yeah, I do agree with the real points. And for her, her lines were pushing right around that 20 marker not even a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago before the break. So I think that is a good option, just kind of given what we have laid out in front of us. If you think this game is going to be competitive like it was this previous time, you could just throw a blanket over the fantasy score and just try and encapsulate everything. I wish we could have got her 3 points made at 2.5
I
again.
know, I know.
I think that
And her
was,
free throw, I mean, yeah, we.
yeah, yeah. So they pulled a lot of our props that we were really hitting them for this last week. And, you know, don't, I think for you guys, don't feel like you have to force this situation to happen again. Just we have what we have to work with. And for some of these games and game scripts, work in the same game theories. But if you don't have the same tools, then you can't obviously do that.
Yeah, I agree. So with everything we said about Rebecca returning and how heavy we're on Sabrina, I'm probably not going to nominate anything here else for New York unless you wanted to go to Shaq Zoo since our lines opened pretty low and she had such a phenomenal game, probably her best game against Vegas. But it could be fool's gold, fake game. 38 fantasy points. She broke like a franchise record for. She was like 10 to 10 at field goal made at one point, which is like a franchise record. Yeah, she shot 11
Yeah.
to 12, 2 2 from 3, 24 points. I mean, it was just one of those games. They have her at 15 and a half fantasy. She's averaging well over that in the season, 19.9.
Yeah, I like her fantasy line, and we saw this. I know previous meeting when we were pretty heavily on her, we actually just took her PRA, and she surprised us with having a fair amount of stocks in that matchup. And I think, just for her given size, that she's going to be live for being able to just fall into a couple of stocks every night, especially for this pace up matchup here. I think, honestly, just with all the question marks with the injuries and players coming back, I would feel pretty comfortable with Sabrina as the standalone guard and then taking some shots on either Stephanie or Shaksu tonight.
Yeah,
Just because we know those rotations aren't going to be affected. And then you get what you get with Natasha Howard. She's kind of our streaky
yeah,
burn me once, burn me twice player,
yeah,
but they took away her free throw props. Super upset
yeah.
about that. And pretty even on a lot of her props here. So I don't have any warm and fuzzies on one or the other. But I did want to shout out. I just saw you skim through it a second ago. Stephanie Dolson, her turnover at 1.5, I think is very much in play for us today.
Okay.
That's not a prop that we've had for her. So I believe she's cleared that in the last four or five or 3 of 5. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5. So I think this is a sneaky play for us today. And even though kind of looking on there that Vegas was the only one that she didn't hit on, I think that she's good for 2 tonight.
Yeah, because sometimes she'll try to pass from the 3-point line or the high post when she doesn't, because she'll like to take 3-point shots, but if the shot's not there and it's not open, she'll try to force passes. So to a cutter going to the lane. So, and then
Yeah,
offensive charges as well. Yeah.
absolutely. And with that game, you mentioned Shaq Zoo heating up. That could be a hot hand situation that happened as well, where coach was like, okay,
Hmm.
you're in a little bit of foul trouble here. She's playing lights out. We're going to give her the run, and we'll come out after half and see what happens.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Let's keep on moving then. Before we get to the next game, let's catch up with chat. Let me get started on this. Okay. Let's catch up with chat. Jake said, let's get this slate swept. Appreciate you, fam. Hey, appreciate you, Jake. Glad you're here, man. Underrated. Let's go hit the like. Love you, Stewie. That was a sweat. It seems like MLB GOAT. Stream is back. Yeah, we're back and better than ever. Underrated. This song is dope. Yeah. You made a fire song, man. Appreciate that. Underrated. MLB GOAT said, PrizePicks trying to bring us all back with points and rebound props. They are. And they might be smoke screening some props they took away from us, like the free throw and other peripheral stat prop that we discussed. Matt said, ready for a good Taco Tuesday, fellas. Yeah, the first taco hit. Breeze points. It was a sweat at the end, though. Chatoa said, sup, fam, loving the slate today. Yeah, we got a lot of options. We're going to have to really narrow in. Jermaine said, what's up, fellas? What up, Jermaine? Cowboy, my dude, you're Vince, part of the crew, man. One of the main members. What's up, Vince? Emerson, threes. All right. All right, Emerson. Let's get right into it. We have next game starting an hour after the start of the first game at 8 p.m. Eastern. Somewhat decent implied total, 163.5. I mean, nowhere near the first game. First game's 10 points more. And then I feel like this is like the bane of our existence. in terms of just teams and matchup. We have Atlanta on the road. We know how this goes. We've seen this story numerous times. One of the worst road teams in the league, and they're going to travel and playing one of the best teams in the league, top 2 team in the league, Chicago, in Chicago. So it's not looking good for Atlanta here. They have already played twice. The first matchup was pretty close, and the second matchup was close as well. It went to overtime, and that was in Chicago. I believe, yeah, Candace did not play that game. That went to overtime. And she had a less than stellar performance in the first matchup. So I still think it's a high propensity to blow out, and Vegas agrees. 9 point spread. I just never like betting on Atlanta to cover the spread when they're on the road. But let's start with them as a road team. They opened up. I noticed they really limited their props. I don't know why, but they were really holding back on them when I was entering data this morning. Okay, let's see. Yeah, still limited.
Yeah, and they took all day to even give us Wheeler. She wasn't even on the board for a long time.
Yeah, and they only give us 3 props for her, and they're missing the 5th starter, which I assume is going to be Billings. They only have 4 starters on the board right now, so we can get through this pretty quick. Did Hayes play in that second matchup? That's what I wanted to see. So Hayes has not played. Hayes has not played in this series. So I think the one I would probably target is her. They keep dropping her props. I know she hasn't been getting it done, but All-Star break, coming off All-Star break, even more rest for her because she's been out extended time and just made her recent debut not too long ago. Yeah, they have her point prop all the way down to 10.5. If I would just feel any comfortable with anyone, it'd be her, and then I'll let you talk about the Crew's favorite and Aguida's favorite, Parker's 21.5 fantasy. I think that's a core play of the Crews. So I think that's probably where 2 main pieces I would look to, and then I'm not feeling good about Wheeler or Ryan Howard's props.
Yeah, right there with you on those secondary pieces. The the games have been reasonably close. We did get that overtime game, as you mentioned, but Atlanta on the road has just been, at least the first half of the year, they've been a very poor, pretty terrible team. They've looked a lot better mostly in the last couple, I would say probably 4 weeks, 3 weeks, give or take. They've not winning games, but they're keeping them competitive. So, I think honestly for us, that's the best case scenario we can hope for tonight. I do like Miss Parker tonight, man. I'm not gonna lie. Just
Revenge, right?
yeah, the revenge narrative, and not only just that, but her 2 previous performances against Chicago, with and without opposing Parker. For the first meeting, she dropped 32.7 fantasy, and then the second one, she went nuclear, had a season high 49.7. So
Season high probably in minutes too, right? 35 minutes. It's a lot for her. I guess it was because of overtime.
yeah, overtime definitely had a huge part of that last little bit there, but she was cruising in the game, had a handful of stocks, and was
8.
putting up. Yeah, I think just honestly for Atlanta and Chicago, both teams being top 5 in pace. Yes, there's definitely a blowout factor here for us tonight, but we've seen that kind of between Parker and Howard on the team. That's the offense in a lot of these games. If both of them are playing well, it's a competitive game and we see it go 4 quarters. If one or the other is playing well, the game usually blows out by 3. And Atlanta, unfortunately, with their coaching, they will pull the starters and we will see a bench clear out. So that's something you got to, high risk, high reward tonight. But with that being just such a low fantasy score for her, and we like this, if she had a stock prop for us today, we would probably be interested in that. So I'm
Oh yeah.
predicting she's going to get 3 stocks. 6 rebounds and then fill it out the rest with points.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it. She definitely plays with a chip on her shoulder in this matchup. I guess the reason they're not giving us the fifth starter is because Nia Coffey. We don't have any updates on her. She's been missing time prior to All Star break, and I assume there's a good chance that she could turn after that break. But I have not read any news or updates, so I forgot about that. That's probably why we don't have the fifth starter prop. So something to look out for. If she ends up playing, I don't think it really changes anything for our interest in Parker. But yeah, I'm probably Atlanta being on the road. I'm probably just gonna stick with Parker from Atlanta side, unless you had any others.
Not in particular. They're really being stingy with these props. I was hoping we were going to get a Wheeler assist prop again, and of course they didn't give us that. So just we're getting what we get to work with, and it's pretty limited for Atlanta today. And we already don't like them that much on the road, so I feel like this is a nice little nudge to stay away from.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, and then on Chicago side, I think yeah, again you have the risk of blowout, and we've talked about extensively how Candace can just take it easy majority of the game and then turn it on at the end if they need her. In this, I think that has a low chance of happening in this matchup. I think with Atlanta, if you're under the assumption that they're going to struggle on the road to score, because their defense is always there and solid, but it's their offense that really struggles on the road. There should be a lot of bricks to go around, so I think maybe rebound props would be something of interest here for Chicago. I think Emma and Vandersloot can definitely be considered. And then Copper's a solid guard rebounder as well. We rarely get rebound prop for her too, so I'm glad to see that back. And another one that stood out to me is probably going to be block and steal for either Candace or Vandersloot. They're both at 1.5. Atlanta is first in turnover percentage. They have the highest turnover rate. So yeah, I think you could consider both those are really low lines. It's just a matter of, I guess, if it blows out early and they don't get fourth quarter run, and they needed that fourth quarter run to clear it with one more stock. That's the only concern. And then we know how scorekeepers are with stocks. Sometimes they won't even count a block or a steal. It'd be very, very annoying, but it's such a low line at 1.5. Yeah, so I was thinking rebounds and then stocks, main ones for me. So I'm curious to see what you think of those, and then if you had any others for Chicago.
Yeah, I do like the Vandersloot call on the 1.5. She's been clearing that last 5 games. Yeah, 5 games
Even
in a
through
row
her
now.
cold streak of like this weird, like I don't know. Do you think that maybe the break helps her, right? Because she was in a funk, like motivation wise, performance wise.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that. She was, kind of flirting around in the team leader for shot and shot attempts, and over especially the last 4 games now, we've seen her in single digit shot attempts. Granted, yes, we are picking up in the assist category and snagging that maybe an extra rebound a game in there, but just really taking a back seat to this offense right now. And, you know, I'm hoping with having such a time off and the extended rest through the weekend that we'll see now Chicago is ready to start making that postseason push, and they're really going to lock in not only these conference games, but just as I think an overall statement. Atlanta has been able to kind of keep these games close, but we could definitely see tonight with them having the home game after such a long time off, they're going to put on a show for us. So love that call. I really wish we got more evenly distributed props throughout the team, but I think we got enough here from Chicago to work with. One of my favorites, I got to say, is got to be Copper's points and rebounds. She's just been doing it all in both those categories. So you could take them as a standalone prop if you wanted, or if you haven't, a gut call, one or the other. But I think for me, honestly, I want to attack both of them. And points and rebounds at 17 looks really good for her. Um, I think honestly, for the most part, those are the two gut calls that I really like from Chicago today. I do agree with the Emma rebounds. We saw the explosive game from her this last time right before the break, and she was really able to remind everyone what she's capable of doing for the team. So don't sleep on her.
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of bricks to go around in this matchup. Um, because that the one game where Lane only had 65 points, like everyone had solid rebound performance. Um, Vandersloot had 7, Copper had 8, Emma had 6. Yeah, rebounds for everyone. Um, I guess
Yeah, it's
the
kind of
one other
surprising. Or I was gonna say real fast. It's kind of surprising they actually gave us rebounding props for everyone on Chicago here.
right, yeah, they lately they've been giving us two rebound props per team, and now we're starting to get more rebound props. And then honorable mention, or maybe not even honorable mention, something you consider. Vince mentioned in our research lab that he liked Quigley's 1.5 3 because as we know she was on a heater before All Star break. Maybe she continues that, and Atlanta you can definitely attack with guards, shooting guards, and 3-point shooting. So it's a pretty low line for her. How many threes she's probably going to take in this game? I assume 5 plus. Around 5 to 8. So yeah, she was 3 of 5 in the most recent matchup, but that was with Candace out. So
Yeah, I like it. I can get behind it. It's a low prop line, something we could have clear in 3/4.
okay, we good? Move on.
Yeah, I think
I
this
do like
next game's probably more to talk about.
yeah, I do like the copper call though, and I'm on the fence about. I'm gonna put Vanderson's rebounds with my theory that Atlanta's gonna have a lot of bricks. Second to her 1.5 block steal. I feel like it's pretty low for her too. Comes back rested.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so next we're gonna have game. Next game starts at the same time. All
Mhm.
right, let's catch up a chat real quick. Gonzalez said Skylar Fantasy. She's in a great spot for sure. Everyday Fantasy said, "Let's go." What up, Everyday? Emerson Baby Gap shirt with a name like Vandersloot, I'd be in a slump too. It's a very unique name, that's for sure. All right, next game, third game on the docket. Starts at the same time, like I said, 8 p.m. Eastern. Around the same implied total. It's 165. And you have Phoenix at Minnesota, and these teams have also played twice so far this season. And I guess we'll just go ahead and start with Phoenix, the away team here. The one that I think all of us liked as a crew, as a whole, and independently, and we brought up multiple times independently, is Skylar's 3 turnovers under, and it's the same process and strategy that we talked about before with Chelsea Gray's
Plum.
turnovers and Plum too in the same matchup. Minnesota just doesn't cause that many turnovers. They're bottom in the league, bottom 2 with New York. So I think she's had spike turnover games, but for the majority of part of the season, she can keep it under control. And especially if Trossi's playmaking more and Petty's playmaking, she doesn't have to take on that playmaking role. I think it has a really high chance of pushing worst case, but yeah, we like that. And then I know, like Chat mentioned, that her fantasy is also of interest because she went off both of these games. I think having 35 fantasy plus in both matchups. So yeah, I get it if you want to take the fantasy. It's a very high line. So keep that in mind. But she's very productive, fills the stat line. So I get it. She went 1 of 6 in the most recent matchup from 3, or was that the first matchup? I can't. They were back to back games. So, but yeah, she 1 of 6, 14 points, 3 stocks, and 5 assists, 3 rebounds. You always just run the risk if Taurasi gets hot from three, or Diamond's playing well off the bench. But and Sophie's been stepping up as of late and playing really well. So curious to see what you think of Sophie's props. Is it chasing? Does that slot machine run dry, or is she still a solid play to go with?
For their first half prop, they definitely juice it up. We were skirting around that high 11, and the more recent, it was at 12.5. So they definitely put some juice on it at 14.5 today.
Wow.
I'm going to be a lot more cautious, I'll say, on the first half prop. But we've seen that she's playing some minutes here in these competitive games. Right there, I was just about to bring up that full game fantasy score. We're getting a huge, huge discount there compared to her first half.
Yeah.
Um, and if this game, I wouldn't even say goes down to the wire, but we could see her just take over first half like she did last game and make it rain. She was just on fire, and I wouldn't even say that's like an outlier performance for her. She's just, whenever she's feeling that 3-point shot, it's, I wouldn't even say unstoppable, but she's just running out there and taking shots, and these opposing inside forwards who should be meeting her at the line are just giving her the open look. And she took what, like 10 shots before half or something this last
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
You just, obviously it was an outlier performance, but still
I
well
mean,
within her realm.
yeah, I think it's yeah, somewhat of an outlier, but she's also just taking advantage of Tina Charles being gone. She's kind of stepping into that role, especially with the 3-point shooting, and offensive threat.
Oh, no
So
doubt. And maybe size and physicality, no, she's not Tina Charles, but Tina Charles isn't exactly the best 3-point shooter either, and that could be what Phoenix has really been lacking. If they're not going to be a competitive or as competitive on the defensive front of things, then they're going to need to make up for that in the three ball, and that's something that not only they're willing to let her do, but the team's basically built around. So if she's slotting in as kind of that forward slash deep three potential, she's going to continue to, drop 24, 26 points any, or fantasy score any given night. So I think for us, given the discount, you got to take her full game fantasy over the first half. But I love the call with our game theory with Skylar's turnover unders. That's been really, really fruitful for us lately. And if you guys are making cards, definitely lock that in early.
yeah, I bet it goes to 2.5. um, so yeah, okay. So back to Sophie real quick. What I want to touch on along the same game script theory. Um, Minnesota's giving up the third most threes, and Phoenix is taking the second most, as we know. They have her. I think we only have her 3-point prop is the only 3-point prop for Phoenix. No, we have Tarasi too.
Yeah.
I think Sophie a 2.5 threes. If you want a little smaller line of sweat, I think that could be in play.
Yeah.
Um,
I have it as like her 1B.
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to point that out because you can definitely attack Minnesota from the three ball perimeter. And then yeah, any other Phoenix props? Speaking of Tarasi, we tend to like targeting her at home, especially her shooting at home. But it's Minnesota. They're not a great defense, like I just mentioned, especially from the perimeter. Anything you like for her? And then I guess any other secondary Phoenix piece.
Yeah, I think for Tarasi, you could consider the 3 points made. Her at home, our game script with that was spot on. She took a ton of threes there, so I think it's in her realm of possibilities. But my confidence level in any of the guards today is going to be fairly low, to be honest. I think if we're going to go anywhere, for me personally, it's probably going to be Petty, her fantasy score at 23. It may seem a little high, but I think for the amount of minutes that she's playing, and we saw recently with her stock upside, that's going to be just points per minute, a pretty easy play for us.
Yeah, I agree. And her fantasy doesn't negatively correlate or affect these other two props that we have up here. So she gets it done pretty much independently from these. So Okay, cool with that. And then Minnesota. So yeah, they've been playing much better as of late. They were the kind of team that everyone picked on and targeted against, and they were getting destroyed and blown out, but they've really stepped it up. Sylvia is still trying to get back to form from her knee injury. I have no idea what her minutes, if they're still going to be capped at 25, 26. We need to look out for reports because maybe after the All Star break, it could go up a little bit, but or they just are going to hold her out for the rest of the season. It's hard to determine, but I just had this gut feel that this is a smash spot for her. Even if she only gets 25 minutes, I think she can clear a point prop at 12 and a half or her fantasy at 26 and a half. I mean, Phoenix has no one that can match up or stop her in the paint. This is prime spot for her. I mean, didn't she just dunk in the All-Star game?
Yeah, that was so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if she's dunking, that knee seems okay to me, right? Like, give her full run.
Yeah, you would think so. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I get it. She's a vet. So that's my gut feel. I really like Sylvia. And then I really like these couple of other pieces, especially rebounding. So Phoenix is dead last in rebound percentage, and they just take a lot of threes too. So naturally, less offensive rebound opportunity because of those long rebounds, more defensive rebound opportunity for the other team. So I really like the rebound props for Minnesota, in particular, Powers at 4. I believe she destroyed this in each matchup. Or one game she had 5, and another one I think she had like 9 or something like that, 8. And then the other one would be Shepard. So they had opened her at 6.5, way below her season average. And I believe in the 2 matchups she had 13 rebounds and 9 rebounds in this matchup. And then off the bench, or 13 in 31 minutes off the bench, 13 rebounds. And then in just 20 minutes off the bench, she had 9. Really good spot for her to get rebounds. It's just a matter of how many minutes she's going to play. It's kind of her minutes, I feel like, are all over the place. But if she can at least get 20 minutes, I think she can still get it done. Yeah, I think Powers probably has a better shot of at least pushing or clearing. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts on comparing those 2 props, because I wouldn't play both together, obviously. And if there's any other Minnesota props you like, I think we talked about Jefferson, Mariah's 1.5 block steal. And then, yeah, she's productive. So any of her other PR, PRA, fantasy are also in play.
Yeah, we'll go back to fouls here. I think that she's due for a fairly prime spot here with Phoenix not really having that sizable of a front court to go up against. And I know that we were fairly high on her first half PRA. It was at, I believe, 10 or 11 this last time, like 10 and a half or 11. And they only moved it up to 11.5. So I think that that's a perfect spot for us, just kind of given the slight pace up that Minnesota's going to have here. And right now, PrizePicks is still kind of easing her prop lines back in as well. This could be, a prime spot for her. And now with the team starting to make a postseason push, we could have more of a fixed kind of rotational minutes for her. So if you're a little questionable on the full game prop, I think the first half is definitely live for her props today. I love the Powers call for the 4 rebounds. She's just been doing a lot for this offense, crashing the boards, getting a ton of trips to the free throw line, seeing a lot of that going hand in hand with her offensive rebounds and put back opportunities. She isn't the biggest guard, but she's a very, very physical player. And if any of these other offensive pieces aren't being able to help in defense, we've seen that the coach has been fairly quick to pull them and go for some of these bench players who are maybe not better on the scoring side, but a lot better on defense. like Shepard here, for example. We could see her have a really big game here just because of not only her size, but Phoenix, their bench pieces are even worse than their starters. So the the small amount of time that she's going to have on the floor, she's going to be extremely productive. And if we can kind of, I wouldn't play them together in no way, shape, or form, but kind of game scripting that if fouls is going to be somewhat limited, we could get a huge run here for Shepard. And I do like the Jefferson 1.5 stocks. She had what, 5 or 6 stocks this last game, and she was, our assist queen that we were going to for a lot. But I think for her, either the stocks at 1.5 or just take everything in the fantasy score.
I agree on the fantasy. I mean, they have it right at her line, but this is a prime spot for her. Let's see if anyone's curious how she did. I mean, she had 9 assists, 12 points. I think you can consider her point assists too, because I mean, she can have spike assist games like you see here. She did against Phoenix in that game.
Yeah.
And then she had 2 steals here, 5 assists, 21 points. I think if you didn't go with the 1.5 block steal, you're assuming that she's not going to rack up stocks. So then you probably don't want her fantasy maybe. If you want to hedge your bet, I think the point assist, since she's specializes in both playmaking and scoring, it would make sense. It's
I
a
like
little
that.
over season average, but the matchup is prime for her in this pace and going against the third worst defense in Phoenix.
I like that. It's good correlation.
Yeah, a lot of solid Minnesota props that I feel really good about. It's just going to be how you construct your card and create different cards and just hedge your bets on which player you go with. Don't pair some of these together like Powers and Shepard. But yeah, some of these you can still pair. You can still pair Jefferson's stocks with Powers, rebound, and even Foles like fantasy or first half PRA. All those can still be correlated. Okay, anything else? Move on to the last game.
Yeah, we can go ahead and scoot on.
Yeah, let's get to we're cruncher time. This game is way on an island. So this game is 2.5 hours later start time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, big late night hammer island game. I don't know. I guess you could get some plays in here, but with it being so spread out, I'd probably treat it just as an independent game if you wanted to tilt bet, if you're trying to make up for any losses or bad beats. But it does have the lowest point spread at 4.5, but it also has the lowest implied total at 158. And a big reason for that is the pace. Washington is the slowest team, last in pace. And Washington is just overall solid team. They don't allow that many points in the paint. They allow the second least amount of points in the paint. They have the second defensive rating. They don't foul. They're third least free throw attempts allowed. And they cause a lot of turnovers. So the Sparks are healthy now. They got Sykes and Tolliver returning. So maybe that helps them out. But in my opinion, they were playing better with Lexi starting in that unit. They kind of got on a little roll there with Lexi Brown in the starting unit. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. If they're going to try to keep getting Lexi more minutes, how it's going to shake out the rotation. But they did give us props for Tolliver. In my opinion, I think Lexi should be playing over Tolliver, but in starting. But that's here nor there. Let's start with the away team, Washington. We got a well-rested Donnie coming out of All-Star break. It sets up nicely for her. I feel like when she comes out of rest, she can have these spike monster games like she did recently. These two teams have only played once, and it was a very close game, 2-point spread. But Donnie did not play in that game. So something to think about. And then I think, and Sparks had their full unit that played. And UC NECA was the most productive out of all of them, which makes sense because Liz going against that stout front court defense of Washington is going to struggle. Nothing. I really haven't like broke this game down because it just did not appeal to me. The pace implied total. I'm gonna let you talk about any key pieces of Washington right away and see what we can come away with from them.
Yeah, I think for Washington, with Dawn having this extended rest here, for her props, you could consider that points. We have liked attacking her prop line really at 17 and under, so it's kind of right there at that line. I think honestly, I would probably just take the points and rebounds at 22.
Yeah.
Um, Cloud, you could probably consider her rebounding at 3.5.
Yeah.
This game, it just looks ugly. I'll be honest. Washington on the road has not been a favorite of ours. Granted, they do have, Don back for this one, so we should see something a little bit more straightforward here, but they could come in and smack down the Sparks in 3 quarters, and the coach will have no problem pulling their starters early. With that being said, if you're going to script out this being a full game, I think you could definitely consider the Don. And I'll give a little shout out to Shakira here. I think her points and rebounding at 14.5 is fairly low for this potentially good matchup here. Washington's getting a pace up, and don't like a lot of their props. They were really narrow kind of selection that we got from Washington today. So I'll play this game super light. As you said, if this is like a rage bet last game thing, maybe a couple of things, but not a whole lot of love here. And with I'll say real fast with the Sparks, we have Carter's going to be out again tonight.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to note. That just solidifies Lexi. Maybe they give us Lexi props. I would look out for that if you're building a late night card. Lexi off the bench.
Yeah.
I guess one thing you point out would be Atkins. They gave us a 3-point prop, right? I would consider the 2. I think it has a high chance of pushing at least because the Sparks are second to last in defensive rating and they give up the second most threes. She was very successful in that last matchup, but again, Donnie was out, but she went 3 of 7 from 3, 22 points. That'd be one I would consider maybe as a low line if you're building a late night card. And then I guess Austin, could we get on her 1.5 block steal? We're looking for low lines here, if you're not feeling confident on the game.
I think so.
It's right there, season average.
Mm-hmm.
She had 1 block in that first matchup. It's a low line sweat.
It is, and a lot of that will just really depend on how much time on the floor Cambridge is going to have, because between her and NECA, that's your 2 targets that you want for the turnovers because they usually create them. But if we see some of these kind of bench players get a fairly deep run, that could really muddy up the water for us. And with so many question marks and now players coming back and PrizePicks really limiting us on some of our prop selection here, this just kind of smells like a dangerous spot to really be involved in.
Yeah, but I get it if you need a tilt bet at the end of the night. Since it is an island game, I'm with you on the Donnie's points and rebounds. Usually when she's scoring and she's being efficient, that she's also being aggressive on the glass. It's highly correlated. It's just her energy and motivation. So it makes sense to go with both the rebound and the points because we've seen her. She can get up to 8 to 10 rebounds in the game. So let's say she hooks at 16 points but gets 8 rebounds, she'll clear that. Or she gets 15 points and 8 rebounds, she'll clear it. So your kind of insurance play there with the PR to cover the productivity.
And even as a kind of a small push, 16 and 6 line, that's very doable.
Yeah, and then I think if you're going to play in a late night card, if you're going to play Atkins threes and Donnie's points or PR, you can go with Cloud's assists at 6.5. It makes sense. Correlate there. All right, and let's finish with the Sparks. Yeah, so like I said, they got Sykes and Tolliver back, which kind of messes things up because we like that tight unit rotation they were running without them, with Lexi Brown starting. Not a great matchup for him. Second best defense, like I said, and second best interior defense. Anything standing out to you?
Not a whole lot. I think you could consider. I didn't mind Cambridge, her points and rebounds at 21, just because she has kind of a spike game between the two of them. And if this is something that is going to stay competitive, we've seen that her, not only her real points, but her trips to the free throw line as well have kind of really helped pad her real point props. So I don't think I like the free throws at 4. That seems extremely high, especially
Mm-hmm.
against this. Washington's a very patient defense, and they don't draw too many fouls. Outside of Shakira, they don't really draw that many fouls. But we got a lot going on here for the Sparks. I think a couple of notable pieces we could consider, maybe Sykes, her assist at 3.5. Her assist for the season is pretty much right at about 3.5. I think it's like 3.3. So that's right there on the line.
3.9,
But
yeah.
yeah, okay, 3.9. Um, so you could consider that, and maybe even kind of running the script back with that, taking some Tolliver unders. They have her assist line, I believe, at what, 4.5 or 5.
Oh, they nerfed it. It did open at 4.5.
Oh man, I liked it at 4.5. Well, never mind.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think they know that people know that she could lose out on minutes with how well Lexi's playing. Okay, I'll mark that. And then I think Katie Lou, how well she shoots a three. She's always like at least making 1 3 a game every game. I feel like so. Another low line if you want to sweat late night. Um, I get it.
yeah, I think it's in play. Her minutes are going to probably be the bigger question mark today.
Yep. But she's been so efficient shooting the three ball. Same with Lexi though too. Yeah, minutes are gonna be weird here, for sure. With
Be
this new role that
interesting.
Lexi, like how well Lexi's playing, I feel like it's gonna change up the rotation a little bit.
Yeah, and we could see, honestly, the Sparks easing these players back into the rotations
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
So maybe fingers crossed that with Lexi coming off the bench, PrizePicks actually does give us her props, and they could be overcorrected, and maybe her minutes are 3, 4 minutes off from what her previous, couple games without these players in. And if that's going to be the case, and they overcorrect, that'll be a perfect spot for us.
yeah. I agree. Okay, should we do the
Build,
team card and get out
yeah,
of here, and then we'll catch up with chat on the way out?
yeah, definitely. Give everyone plenty of time to build.
Alrighty. You want to do the honors?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Let's go with Sabrina and the 8.5 rebounds before they change it.
Alrighty, I am gonna go with Powers for rebound.
All right, let's go with. Here, I'll throw a little different one out. Copper, her rebounding at 4.5.
Not her points rebound.
Oh, actually, yeah, points rebound.
That was your original gut call, but
Yeah, we'll do points rebound. I think it's still going to be a good one for us. She let us down for the free throw props, and I think she's going to smash tonight.
I'm gonna go Asia 27 PR.
Okay, I like that. We're going up to a 5. We're keeping it at 4.
People can play the 4 if they want, and then we can add a 5th, or we just do another 4.
Let's go for here. We'll add a 5th just as an option. Let's go with Parker's fantasy.
Oh, right. It'll just be easier if I just do this. All right, there you go. All right, one more card. Since it's such a large slate. All right, my turn first. I'm gonna go with my original gut call and Sylvia. I would say you can go with their first half PRA. It's very productive in the first half, so I agree with Eric on that. But first half burns me a lot of times, so I'm just gonna go with their full game of fantasy.
All right, let's get Skylar her turnovers prop up there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm probably gonna go with Jackie's rebound.
Ooh, I like it.
Since we don't have Wilson in this one.
Okay. Here, I'll throw a spicy one at you. I like Sophie Cunningham's 3 points made. I think that 2.5 is just too low. And then I'll let you throw the flex option.
Man, do I want Gray under turnover? All right, actually, you know what? I'm going with my girl. Plum. Since we don't have Asia in this one. And it's points assist, so it doesn't negatively correlate with Jackie.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, I like that.
It hasn't moved, right? It was 23 originally.
Yeah, it opened at that.
Cool. All right. There you go. We got a pretty diverse cards here. So let's see what Chad has, and we'll get out of here. With an Lena Fantasy, Gonzalez said, "Yeah, I think we covered that. We're talking about her points and rebounds, and coming out of break, she has a good potential to come out fresh and aggressive and efficient." And Jay said, "Katie Lou 3-point. Yeah, I mentioned that too for the late card, late night hammer." Jeffrey said, "Rebound card, huh?" Hey man, I think it definitely being played. Some of these teams are probably going to come out cold and rusty shooting coming out of break, All-Star break. So could be more rebounds to go around, more missed shots. JT said Natasha Cloud assist. I think you can do that if you're building a late card, or even if you want to throw in the main card, makes sense. With how bad of a defense Sparks are, second to last defensive rating, and if you want to pair it with Atkins threes or Donnie's points, makes sense. All right, guys. We got 45 minutes before lock. I'm going to build the rank list. I will share it in the free Discord. Join our group. It's in the link below. And yeah, we're always working as a unit, sweating all this stuff together. And we'll share the rank with our top 10 with you. Try to really narrow down on this. Might have to. It's going to be an evolving list because of probably get a list up for the first game lock at 7 p.m. Eastern, but then probably come up with a revised list, rank list as that game starts, giving ourselves more time to really hash it out. And then NBA Summer League. Don't have much time here. And we don't know lineups, but I think the one I like the most is Scrubs, 12.5 points. As we've seen last year in Summer League, he's a chucker. He's going to dominate shot volume along with Brandon Boston. He didn't have a great shooting night their first game in the Summer League, and they lost out on minutes due to blowout. definitely a bounce back spot here, and I think his line's too low. And then another chucker is Lewis King at 14.5. This guy should dominate shot volume again, and just needs to shoot a little bit better, and he should easily clear this. And then some unders I like. Atlanta, you can consider all their unders. They look like one of the worst summer league units out there. Terrible. Cooper is just awful. He's like shooting 0 of 8, 0 of 9 the last 2 games. Shot volume's not there. Efficiency's not there. I like his under again, either his 10.5 points or his 17.5 PRA if it's still at that. And then you can go under on Mulder. This guy had a spike game the other game, so they juiced his props. He shot crazy from 3, but he's not a good player, and he doesn't get assists. Gets like 3 or 4 rebounds. I think that PRA is a little too high. First 2 games in summer league, he shot 3 of 10 in both games, and then he had that outlier game as of late. So I like those unders, and you can consider Preston under. He's more of a playmaker under his 11.5 points, because they have his PRA all the way up at 20.5, because he doesn't really take many shots. He'll take about 6 to 8 shots. And because, like I said, Boston and Scrub are going to dominate the Clippers usage. And then I like Santi's 7 rebounds. He averages around that in the summer league this year and last year. It's right there in the line. I think he has a high chance of pushing at least. But yeah, it all depends on who Memphis rolls out. If Tillman's going to get normal run, let's see what their units is before locking this in. I want to know what their starting lineup's going to be. But I like it. He's a solid rebounder. And then some other secondary pieces would be Juhan, because I think Matt Ryan, he made the game-winning 3 last night for the Celtics, but then turned his ankle really bad to win it. So if he's out, that's a lot of more shots for him. Juhan's already averaging around 12 field goal attempts, and Matt Ryan was around that too. So he should pick up the 3-point shooting and more shots. If Matt Ryan is out, which I assume he is because they're on a back-to-back. And then Swider has been really efficient for the Lakers, especially with his 3-point shooting. So that's pretty low. I'd probably put Juhan over him. But yeah, this is going to change too as we get lineups and news. So I think you are pretty confident in the first 2 though, and unders on Atlanta. So all right, with that, we're going to let you guys get out of here. Any 6 minute props? I did not look into them, so I don't want to give you anything misinformation, Jatoa. So probably just going to stay away from those for the rank list for now. But let me know if you guys find anything.
Yeah, you could consider Atlanta 2.5 still, but just for the low line. Tough matchup.
Yeah. All right, guys. We got to get to this rank list. If you want to see it and access to it, join our free Discord in our group. And we will be back tomorrow. What's the schedule tomorrow?
Let's see. Fairly light. 1 game. Island, super early game. Very weird.
Okay, so I guess we're going to be back on Thursday.
Yeah, I'll find out about Thursday for you. But we'll get something worked out.
Okay. All right, guys. Good luck, everyone. Catch you later. Peace.
Peace. Good luck.
Let's fucking go. We about to go big. Kill him at the PrizePicks. Let's fucking go. You watching Contact? You can thank him, man. About to go big. Kill him at the PrizePicks. About to go big. Kill him at the PrizePicks. 24/7 researching, it's all a fantasy. But if I make the right plays, it pays automatically. Bankroll showing that I know it dope strategy. On a winning streak, I'm stacking a dose of the bookies, all get mad at me. Confident with how it plays, not clicking on a flex today. 10 times the money, and we all about to get paid. Eric and Josh on the stream, they be killing it. Never gonna stop it, I like if you feeling it. Digging the players, they all know what time you can't make up your mind, and just go with your gut. Fantasizing, Sasha Cloud, Gabby Williams said watch your mouth. They 1 and they 2, I played the over, they come through. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, pick them both, we stacking them. Going big to the maximum, just push them in, we cashing them. Let's fucking go, we about to go big. Kill him at the PrizePicks. Let's fucking go. You watching Contact? We about to go big.
This is the game.
You watching Gun Jack?
Let's get hunting.
You can thank him, man. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Got to go